Planning Board to order. Please stand for the flag salute. Attention, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Tom Collins.
Here.
Clem Wozleski. Mike Richmond. Jim Galantino.
Here.
Margaret Gubernalty. Here. Mike Cristaldi.
Here.
God bless you. Craig Palmisano.
Here.
David Carter.
Here.
Despina Hess. Remy Pelosi.
Here.
Joe DiGirolamo.
Here.
Rich Patterson.
Here. This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Let the record show Mike Richmond's here.
And Despina Hess.
And Despina Hess is here. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets. Like to hear a motion to approve the minutes of May 25th, 2017.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Like to hear a motion for approval of decisions and resolutions. Number 26, 2017, appointment of solicitor. Number 27, 2017, 100 South Vendome LLC. Number 28, 2017, Arnold Turin. Number 29, 2017, Stuart Lundy. Number 30, 2017, Robert and Amy Chippets.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mike, or Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. First case is Joseph Tozzi, 4 and 6 South Gladstone Avenue, Block 108.02, Lot 24 and 26, in the CBD district to grant a C variance for 2 air compressors in each side yard setback and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. For the record, Clem Wozleski has recused himself. Mr. McLarnon?
Okay.
Leo Roger needs to be sworn in, please.
Mr. O'Connor, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is dated June 19th, 2017. Let's keep it simple. They're asking for a 6.5-inch variance to put an air compressor on the side of a building. No further comment.
Do I speak now?
Oh, wait, I have one question. Somewhere it said 6.5 inch and somewhere else it said 3 feet.
No, I think it's
I give up.
But it is 6.5 inch?
6.5 inches,
Okay.
yes.
6. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Joe Tozzi, 7 South Granville. I'm here to,
And are you going to speak?
this
as
is
well?
Greg
What's your name?
Modell. He's my architect.
Greg
You wanna
Modell.
speak, Glenn?
What's your business address?
419 Bethel Road, Summers Point, New Jersey.
Can you each raise your right hand?
Yep.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we're here to get, to seek a variance to move the air condition. So I'll give you, Greg, architect, to give you the particulars of it, okay? Greg?
Certainly. Greg Modell. The units for air conditioning, the 2 flats for Mr. Tozzi, were deemed inappropriate by the mechanical contractor because of clearance requirements. So we opted to relocate them. The 2 options were to put them above the trash enclosures where they now are represented in this present application, or on the roof. The roof would not have required a variance, but the roof application, the roof mounting of the units would be less in conformance with the master plan because of its noise potential and its difficulty in servicing, as well as the potential for transmitting vibrations into the units themselves. So the actual units are relatively small. They're about 3 feet by 14 inches in width, and of that 14 inches, we require about a hand's breadth of encroachment to make these units work where we propose them. So the amount of the variance required is extremely minimal. It's 3 feet by 14 inches by a hand's breadth. And the hand's breadth is the amount of encroachment that we're looking for. It's about 6.5 inches. And that happens twice on either side of the building. The units are proposed to be screened with vinyl screening so they can't be seen from the street. And the locations are such that the propagation of sound is not very likely because the adjacent properties are solid block walls. So there's very little opportunity for transmission of sound into adjacent units. Okay, any questions?
Is there 2 on each side or 1 on each side?
There's 1 unit on each side of the building, that's correct.
Ready?
And they're 12-foot height, you can walk right under them.
Well, no, you can't. They're not. They're going to meet the flood regulations, but they're mounted on top of the sidewalls for the trash enclosure.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board?
Rich, I have a question
Go
of
ahead.
Jimmy. He said he's going to screen it with vinyl screening. That's not sound deadening or... The reason we screen is for not just sight, it's for noise, things like that, right?
Project, part of this review.
But I would think that's a construction code thing.
Aesthetics.
Vinyl screening is just for aesthetics, it's not for sound protection, it never was.
Roger, is it just for aesthetics? I thought it was a requirement
It's
for
sound dampening too.
sound dampening, absolutely, it's a part of the code. Vinyl screening won't do that.
But I think what's also being missed is the warranty on the units themselves. I think you only have to really screen it from the view from the sidewalk.
Right, but the noise is what I'm...
Noise is going to go straight up. It's going to hit the concrete block and go straight up. If you screen it on the one side,
For aesthetics,
for aesthetics.
basically in front.
Right.
Anything else? Anyone from here from the public like to comment? Public portion is closed. Any other questions or comments from the board? Would you read the motion?
Sure, we need a motion for C variance relief to permit HVAC exterior equipment, namely 2 air compressors, 1 on each side, to extend 6.5 inches into the side yard setback.
Can we just say less than 5 feet? Because what if they install it in 2 inches further? I mean,
Sure.
let's not split hairs on this.
Yeah, that's fine. The motion to be amended, so we need a motion for C variance relief to extend into the side yard, the HVAC units into the side yard setbacks.
Correct.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Tom Collins,
Application seems very de minimis, 6.5 inches, 6 inches, whatever it's going to be. Really shouldn't affect the neighborhood or the pattern, so I see no negative criteria to vote against it. I vote in favor.
Mike Cristaldi,
I see no negatives from it at all. I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty,
I am in agreement with Mr. Collins and Mr. Cristaldi. There's no negative effect on the neighbor. It's de minimis request, and I am in favor of granting the C variance.
Rich Patterson,
For reasons previously stated, I vote yes.
Glenn Wozleski,
Abstain.
pardon me?
Abstain.
He's not here.
Oh, sorry about that. Jim Galantino,
I agree, there's no negative. I approve.
Craig Comisano,
I also agree with the proposed, no negatives, yes.
Mike Richmond.
Yeah, I don't see any negative impact. I approve.
Application passes 7-0.
Need 8 sets of plans for the board to sign off.
Did they come sign their papers?
Not yet.
Joe, you got to come sign some papers?
Do we have room? I think so.
Next case is Chris Criswell, 7408 Fremont Avenue, Block 501.02, Lot 25.01, in the S30 District to grant a C variance, front yard setback for porch, second floor deck, and building along Argyle Avenue and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
Ready, Mr. Patterson? No.
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report dated June 19th in regard to Chris Criswell, 317 North Argyle Avenue. Background, the applicant is seeking relief in the ordinances.
Is that it?
Okay. Reboot. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to construct a new home with a front porch, deck, and building that do not meet the minimum front yard setback requirements. The subject property is on the corner of Argyle Avenue and Fremont Avenue. It is proposed to have the house face North Argyle Avenue. The variance is required, front yard setback for the porch, Argyle Avenue, whereas 13.35 feet is the prevailing setback and 11 feet is proposed. 5 feet is the absolute minimum in the absence of calculated prevailing setbacks. Front yard setback, second floor deck, Argyle Avenue, whereas 13.35 feet is the prevailing setback and 11 feet is proposed. Front yard setback building, Argyle Avenue, whereas 20.74 feet is the prevailing setback and 18 feet is proposed. No waivers have been requested. My comments are a reduction in the setbacks will reduce the average for the entire block for future calculations. The 5-foot setback along the side yard facing Fremont Avenue greatly reduces the yard as usable as it would normally be viewed as a rear yard by a layperson. Consideration should be given to increase the 5-foot side yard and perhaps reduce the building setback along Fremont Avenue. I discussed this with the applicant's engineer and planner, and he'll go into detail of what culminated from our discussion. The recommendations are for the C1 and C2 criteria where appropriate, including positive and negative criteria components. That concludes my report for this application.
Good evening. Chairman, members of the board, Nick Talvacchia for the applicant Chris Criswell. With me is our summer associate, Jim Savio. We also have John Barnhart, our planner and engineer, and the applicant, Mr. Criswell. We're going to bring John up right away. This is a single-family home vacant lot. The lot's compliant, and it's largely because of the way the prevailing setback calculation works that we're asking for this relief. There's a really limited number of homes, so some unusual circumstances. We're under coverage. The lot is completely conforming. So, John, if you could rise. Do we need to swear him in, Mr. Chairman, or I guess we do?
I'll
Say that
swear him
again?
in.
Yes. And you need a microphone, John.
Your name and business address for the record.
John Barnhart, office address 400 North Dover Avenue, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Based upon his prior qualification for this board as a planner and an engineer, I offer him as an expert. You accept that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Barnhart, you prepared this plan?
We prepared the site plan, correct?
Yeah. Can you orient the board to the location?
Yeah, the property is located right on the corner of Argyle and Fremont Avenue. One of the more unique intersections in the city. There are actually, I believe, 6 streets that come to this location at the intersection of Argyle and Fremont Avenue. The lot is currently a vacant lot, and the proposal is to construct a single-family dwelling on the site. All aspects of the project will comply with one exception, and that is dealing with the front yard setback for the house and then also the front porch. The reason for the request is we think somewhat of a unique situation with regard to the calculation of the front yard setback at this location. You have some larger lots as far as their widths are concerned going down Argyle Avenue. So when you calculate the front yard setback, there are 4 houses. Generally on a block that long, you have 5 or 6 houses depending on the lot widths. In this case, there's only 4 houses within our 200 feet. 2 of those houses happen to be set back nearly 5 times the minimum that the ordinance requires. They're 24 and change for 2 of them. The other 2 are actually closer to the street than what we propose for their porches and their front wall. But when you throw out the high and the low, you end up with an average for the house of almost 21 feet and an average for the porch of just over 13 feet. So the average is,
How much deeper are the other lots?
the other lots are, give me 1 second. The lot next to us is 60 deep, and so the lot immediately next to us is 60 deep,
And what are you?
and our lot our depth from Argyle is 49.
Okay.
Yep. And then when you get down further, the lots get deeper because they go back to the alley. So what I was explaining is you have a situation where when you throw out the high and the low, you end up with an average that is approximately 4 times the minimum requirement.
John,
Yes.
I just want to note, I just looked at the map, the next 2 are 98 feet deep.
Correct, yeah, the next
I
two
mean,
go,
I can see where it could throw it off. Right.
yeah, the next 2 go back all the way to the alley, so they
Right.
get considerably deeper, that's correct. So those lots are afforded the ability to actually move the houses back a little bit. But the interesting thing here is, as I mentioned, there's 4 houses within our 200-foot setback that are part of our calculation. Of those 4 houses, I just wanted to point out, the one next to us, as I mentioned, is 24.2 feet from the front property line, but the next one is 17.3. So we're actually proposing to be back further than the next house down the block. The next house going away from us is 24.3, and it actually spans 2 lots. And then the last house is 14.5 feet, 6 feet, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So essentially, assuming, if we are fortunate enough to receive the variance this evening, in my opinion, we are the average. We are going to be further back from the street than 2 of the houses, and 2 of the houses on that street are further back than us. So actually, if you look at how the houses sit on the block, it creates a nice mix of houses that are forward and backward along Argyle Avenue. So for all of the reasons that I just explained, we believe that this is a situation where we have a C2 type of variance, where the benefits of the deviation outweigh any potential detriments. I think there's a couple of mitigating factors here, and that is the openness of this intersection. We are obviously hampered by 2 front yards, so we have to deal with having 2 front yard setbacks. We are complying on Fremont Avenue, but there's a great sense of openness. So although we are slightly closer to the street than what the ordinance permits because of the prevailing setback, I don't believe, from a planning perspective, it's going to have that feeling or appearance should this variance be granted. And I think another very important factor is, although we're asking for that deviation, we are approximately 8% below building coverage, which is, as you know, is something you don't see very often. So this is not a case of trying to overbuild the lot or building too much house on this lot. It's a conforming lot. All aspects are conforming. We have a 49-foot deep lot. We're trying to develop a house that has a nice size to it, but it doesn't overburden the lot. And we just have this unique condition along Argyle. So we don't see a negative associated with it. We don't believe that there is any substantial detriment to the public good. We think that it fits in very well with the character of the neighborhood. And we don't think that there is any substantial detriment to the zone plan or the zoning ordinance in that it really is, it's the average. There's 2 in front of us and 2 behind us.
Did I miss it? Did you say what the benefits are to the neighborhood?
The benefits to the neighborhood are a brand-new, beautiful home on a currently vacant lot.
And John, a
Yes.
consistency in the design, some are 2 are back further, excuse me, 2 are up further.
Correct. In fact, the pattern that would be created would be You know, we're gonna be 18 feet back with our house, 11 with our porch. The next house is 24 feet back. The next house, going down Argyle is 17. The next house jumps to 24, and the next house is 14. So there's actually a pattern created as a result of the proposal.
So good civic design, good aesthetic design.
That's correct.
And do you believe that because of the differences in lot depth and along the blocks, does that also create somewhat of a hardship?
Yeah, this can be discussed as a hardship situation because you have a 49-foot lot. The lot next to us is 60, and then once you get beyond that 60-foot lot, those lots go all the way back to an alley, and they're almost 100 feet deep. So they had the opportunity to move those houses back and still have a nicely sized home.
Thank you.
John, you plan on adding sidewalk and curb along Fremont Avenue as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I did want to point out, Roger and I talked about this. When we were preparing, we realized that the house actually does have a 5th bedroom, so the plan that was submitted showed 2 parking spaces, which would not comply. We have modified that so that we have 2 parking spaces side by side and then a 3rd parking space for the garage, so it does comply with regard to parking. And we've rechecked the landscape coverage, and we still comply in all regards.
And you're putting grass in the Governor's Strip on both sides?
Out by the street, yes.
Does this require 4 trees or 2 trees? It's 4 trees, isn't it?
Yes.
You know there'll be 4 trees, you agree to that?
Yes.
I don't know if it's too early to discuss it, but since we're kind of leaning towards the idea of when we have the 2 side yards or 2 front yards, the one that faces Fremont to have it have the appearance of a front yard, the aesthetics of it, has that been discussed at all?
As far as the aesthetics of the house?
Yeah, sprucing up the side wall, so it's not just a wall along Fremont, since there's 2 fronts, more or less.
Yeah, there is, I guess we'll call it undulation or projections. There's 2 projections on the front wall of the house, and I assume, Andy, what are you doing with the foundation base? What are you doing with the?
You gotta be sworn in.
Just repeat what he says, because he's not sworn in. Repeat what he said.
Okay, the builder just indicated that they propose to stone the 2 fronts so that the foundation has a nice appearance to it on both streets.
All right, well, while we're on that subject, I didn't get any plans with any plans with the building. I just got was this the one with the site plan?
It was not a site plan, it's just a variance plan.
Was this the one we didn't get a plan? You did get a plan? Yeah, we need plans with these when they come in. I mean, to look so we can see what the side of the house looks. And
What was in the manila envelope?
I didn't see any plans.
In that manila?
In here?
I didn't realize the architectural plan was.
Yeah, it's right here.
He's gonna go get it.
This is it. There's no
Yes.
plans.
What's the required setback off Fremont? Only 5 feet?
Yes.
So this building could be built closer to Fremont, correct?
It could be, we just didn't think it was the appropriate thing to do, given the location of the house next door. Well, I mean, we've got, sliding this forward, and we're gonna have a similar setback, 11.5 feet to the house from the property line and 11 feet to the house from the porch, so it just creates, a nice consistent yard around the corner, keeps sight lines open, and, we really didn't see, a benefit to sliding the house forward toward the street.
What would be the detriment?
What would be the downside? I mean, if you went to what, say the minimum, for example?
No. If you replace the amount of square footage you're.
They're talking about Roger's
What
suggestion.
Roger's suggestion, and if you look at the house behind it, it comes at one point out 6.6 on Fremont. And you're gonna be at 12 and 11.5. So you're really not infringing on the other property, and to slide that over, which I thought was a good idea, what Roger suggested, even from 12, if you even came over 3, 4 feet, 5 feet, it just,
Slide the whole house
and then eliminate some of the, well, Roger's comment was on the, alleviate the Argyle Avenue side.
You get the same square footage in the house.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to.
Actually, the genesis of my comment was to provide a bigger rear yard or side yard where the 5-foot is, and move that over to the front yard on Argyle, or Fremont rather.
And keep the house further from the neighbor.
And provide some sort of usable yard.
Right.
And then Raj, get some separation on the garage, because a foot is not enough. Get that even there in the gutter. Foot and a half.
That's been the required
I know.
distance we've been allowing.
Can we just get a half a foot?
What is it?
Roger, are you saying by moving the house forward towards Fremont, you get more room between the garage and the house?
Actually, it wasn't moving the house, it was cutting a portion of the rear off or the side where it's 5 foot and just relocating it on the other side.
Make it longer and thinner. That was the recommendation.
Bringing the rear in.
I mean,
One at a time, please.
I understand the comments, and I don't think he would have any issue with sliding it forward, but it kind of doesn't change the issue of the overall width or depth, however you want to look at the house. It's still, you know, we're only asking for 24 inches. We think it's very much consistent with the development pattern, and not having that deviation takes the house another 2 feet narrower, regardless of where you slide this. So, as it is, it's only, I think, 26 feet. So, if without the deviation it goes down to 24 feet, whether that's the width or the length of the house, it's still, you know, relatively narrow for a house. I don't think moving the house towards Fremont Avenue, I don't think changes the concern.
John, could you bring me a side view of the house so I can pass it around up here? Oh, I can't see that far.
Blair.
Mr. Tovecchia, I'm going to mark this A1 and call it the elevation.
I think that's Blair, at the plan. Blair, learn, Blair,
Did you see it, Dustman?
same plan last time.
While we have a lull here, the case of Bruno has been postponed until next month. If anyone's here for the case at 112 South Douglas Avenue has been postponed till next month. Do they need to re-notify or anything?
No,
If they're new plans, they do.
Are they new plans?
they're not new plans.
But
Okay.
Chris, I'll probably need more packets because at the end of the night when I collect them, I don't.
That'll be happy to take care of.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
So no renotice of publication, this is the announcement that it's been put off to next month?
As long as there's no
And-
changes to the design.
and the date next month is July,
27th, I think.
July 27th.
July 27th, 6:30, this room.
Thank you very much.
Okay, where were we on this case?
Nick, do you have a set of plans I can put in for the record?
Yeah.
This is a complete set, it's multiple sheets, so we can mark this Exhibit B.
Okay, so Exhibit B is going to be the complete set of architectural plans.
We're not on a break. Where are we here?
Waiting for.
We're looking at the plans.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're amenable. I don't know if there's a consensus on any changes, but I think as Mr. Barnhart pointed out, the 2 feet we're asking for in the front, would preserve a house that's really not, that doesn't have a lot of depth. It's only 26 feet. If we lose that 2 feet, it compromises the design of the house internally, because that's really the hardship. We have the prevailing calculation, but we're really under the standards you look for in development. We're under the coverage by 8%, which is substantial, so we're not overburdening the lot. The setback is really 5 foot, but for the prevailing calculation, and we have an odd situation with some lots that are really deep and some that are close.
Is it 2 stories, 2.5 stories? What is it?
2.5.
2.5 stories? 2.5.
What's the height?
John?
28 above finished floor. Finished floor is at the PFD plus 6.
Speak into the microphone, please, John.
28 above finished floor, and the finished floor is set at 11.
So we think when you look at the whole package, it's not a situation of trying to build more house, get more space. It's just trying to accommodate a unique circumstance with the setback that gets calculated as a result of existing development, not as a result of our development. So as John mentioned, when it's all said and done, you got 5 houses, and we're basically right in the middle in terms of setbacks of the other 4 houses. 2 are greater, 2 are less. We're basically in the middle, which is a good pattern of development. So we think there's a hardship created by the way the calculation works in the existing homes, which is, imposed upon us. And we think that from a design perspective, it works. And again, coverage is under. And again, it's a unique intersection, I know you're familiar with it, where directly across from us is not even a house, it's a street, because it's at an angle. If you look really right directly. So there's a lot of openness there. I think I'll have no impact on anyone. And for those reasons, we would request your approval of the what we think is very minor variance relief.
And the second floor deck is the same as the first floor deck, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions are you done?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? Public portion is closed. If there's nothing else from the board,
Yeah.
Despina? Mike?
It's me.
Mike?
The 1 foot on the garage, you end up with a 6-inch on the soffit and then 5-inch on the gutter. You're 11 inches, you're 1 inch.
You want us to slide it, house over a little
I'd
bit?
rather see you slide it a little bit. The same size house, you're only 26 feet wide now. I mean, will we create another variance on that? We're on Fremont, you're 11.5 now. If you just gave us a little bit more room between the garage and the house, and on the other side, just slid it that little bit.
1 foot, Mike?
At least go, if we went 16 inches on the garages off the side, I think we'd be a lot better off, just another 6 inches.
But you have 12, so if you did 1 more foot, then you'd have more than you need.
Oh, foot's, yeah.
Foot would be good.
What are you talking about, between the house and the garage, or on the other side of the
both.
garage?
Both.
Let's slide everything over.
Slide everything over.
House and the garage.
The house and the garage.
Yeah,
Everything
just the house.
slide it.
Just the house?
Bigger separation.
No.
Well,
Why?
I went 42 in between, which would be 3'6"
It
and
is
then
a foot
6
off.
more inches on.
It is a
top.
foot off, so it has to be.
The 1 foot that you're just sliding.
Why?
And doing everything identical, just boom.
You're saying take everything on the plan and slide it this way?
Yeah, and give me another 6 inches in between the garage and the house.
Okay, so you're saying make that 3'6".
3'6",
Make that
1'4".
Oh, that's just 1'4". I thought
Yeah.
you were saying make that 2 feet. Okay,
No, no need that.
okay.
And the house.
So I'm adding a half a foot here and 4 inches here,
Yeah,
But you're sliding the house.
and the house goes forward.
yeah.
Mike, could you explain that to me? About the other side of the other side of the garage?
Where the garage is, we're 12 inches off the property line.
Right,
They put a 6-inch soffit on that, and then
Right.
a 5-inch gutter. You got 1 inch left.
5-inch, okay,
That's what they are. They're
right,
5.
okay.
So you end up with 1 inch left. I'd rather move that just a little bit, 6 inches.
Well, we used to have 0 setback, and
I
then
know.
but we made the foot because as long as the gutter fit in there, it was
I've got 2
okay.
neighbors with baseball bats at each other over this issue.
What, the water flows out of the gutter, or what's the issue?
Yeah, when it rains real hard, it's just that extra little bit will win. And it's not gonna affect anything.
It's not gonna affect anybody here, I just
No.
thought, is this something we need to do on
I
everybody, or?
think we should look at it.
All right, well,
But
we'll
I
look
mean,
at it. But if you do that, that would be great.
We have no objection to it.
And you're not
From our
infringing on a
sales.
setback on the
I don't-
Fremont, are you?
John, do we still comply with Fremont?
No, there's only two other houses, so you throw out the high and the low, you're at your minimum anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Which is 5 foot, so we're well over 5 foot.
Right.
Mike, should the garage move forward from the rear line 4 inches also?
Wouldn't hurt.
It doesn't have to, it's not legal.
There's no gutter there.
Doesn't have to, it doesn't have to.
No.
Do you have the architectural plans for the garage?
Have an architectural plan.
What about this one? What about this?
What the garage is?
This is gonna be four.
No.
We don't have that.
What was that, the extra thing you handed out?
John,
Yeah,
are you
the whole
fine
thing
with
is-
the, adding this 6 inches to the 3 foot as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't, we see no issue with that. In fact, we're happy to move the garage forward by a foot as well to get it off the back line.
Then you end up with junk collection back there. There's no soffit, there's no gutter, there's nothing there. You can't, if you give them that room, there's gonna be ladders hanging on it, everything hanging on it. So you're better off where you're at with that.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Would you read the motion, please?
Sure, John, real quick, we're moving the house 1 foot towards Fremont or 10 inches?
10 inches.
Towards Fremont.
We're moving the house, let me take this off. We're moving the house to a total of 6 inches plus 4. So the house is gonna come 10 inches toward Fremont Avenue.
And the garage 4 inches, got
And
it.
the garage is gonna come 4 inches toward Fremont Avenue.
Okay.
Oh, you show the air conditioner units there in between. Are they up in the air?
Yes, they're up in the air. Yes.
How high up in the air?
High enough to walk on,
12 feet? Okay. Okay, thank you. Wait a minute,
You're
elevation
saying
12 or
it's gonna
12
be
feet
12
up?
feet from the concrete or
You
12
got-
feet above sea level?
They gotta be high enough so you can walk through the alleyways.
You gotta walk under it, right? You need 84 inches of 7 foot.
We got to swear him in. Andy,
Yeah.
just come up here a second, please.
State your name and address, please.
John Mason, 708 Sterling Place, Brigantine.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Mr. Mason, you're going to be the builder of this project?
Correct.
All right. Could you address the comment about how high the air conditioning units will be off of
the-
grade? Off of grade.
Off a grade, it will be 9 feet from the top of the block to the top of the platform for condensers. House next door is maybe be between 12 foot, I would think.
Okay, thank you.
3 foot of block work.
Thank you.
You mean elevation 12 feet?
No, 12 feet off the ground.
It's gonna come out right at the second floor, the joists are, right. All right, thanks.
Go ahead.
All right, we need a motion for C variance relief to permit the following front yard setback variances. To the porch on Argyle Avenue, a variance of, for 13.335 feet where 11 feet is proposed. A variance for 11 feet on the to the second floor deck on Argyle Avenue, where 13.35 feet is required, and a front yard setback to the building along Argyle Avenue of 18 feet, where 20.74 feet is required. With the following conditions: the house will be moved towards Fremont Avenue with 10 inches, and the garage will be moved towards Fremont Avenue 4 inches.
Make a motion.
And sidewalks along Fremont Avenue.
And
And this-
sidewalks along Fremont Avenue.
And the stone facade on the foundation? I believe the stone facade on the foundation.
Oh, and the stone facade.
And a stone facade on the foundation.
Hear a motion?
Remy made the
I made a
motion.
Oh.
motion.
I'll second the motion.
Tom Collins?
You know, it's kind of a shame when you have a 65-foot by almost 50-foot lot that we're even entertaining variances and it's an empty lot. It really should have been designed to fit into the neighborhood. And if we hadn't have asked for the plans, we're being told that we're fitting neighborhood patterns and ins and outs, and it's a nice quaint little thing. It's a slamming house. It's gonna be a 5-bedroom, 2.5-story house. That's the negative to me. On the positive side, I think it's gonna be an improvement to the neighborhood. I'm happy that you're willing to accommodate a few little design changes so that we can make it better for the neighborhood. I can't see it negatively impacting in the long range, so I vote in favor.
Clem Osneski?
Well, we're starting off with a vacant lot. And with a vacant lot, I have not really heard any reasons offered why a conforming house could not have been designed on this property. Instead, we're just getting another standard box, which, in my opinion, offers absolutely no benefit to the city of Margate. I vote no.
Rich Patterson?
My first inclination was no. My second inclination was that there is a hardship with those two 98-foot lots where the houses can be set back. But one of the houses on the 98-foot lot isn't set back that far. I agree with Clem. I think it's an empty lot and there's plenty of room to build a house. So I vote no.
Margaret Gubernalty?
Well, I thank you for your consideration in making some adjustments. I think every case has to be looked at in an as an individual case. I don't like to compromise our plan, but this house is under coverage. I think the openness of the neighborhood will allow this house to be built there. I don't see a negative impact, and I vote in favor of the application.
Jim Galantino?
It's going to kind of match the existing house next door to it. And I like the fact that they moved it off the property line with the garage. At least I get a little bit more distance for gutters. It's going to work in nice with the neighborhood. I don't see any detriments. I'm going to approve it.
Craig Palmisano?
I'm glad we saw the plans of a 5-bedroom. I think it's a little bit too massive for the lot. I'm against 5-bedroom homes, large, squeezing them in. I'm just, the garage is being used as a parking lot, a parking space, and people just don't use them. I think it's just gonna crowd it too much, and I'm with the chairman on this one as far as it's an empty lot and you should design a house to fit the lot. I vote no.
Mike Richmond?
I think that it is a bit of a hardship with the, two lots being at 98 feet and kind of skews the average. I think that keeping the house away on the left-hand side gives a sense of openness to the house and the lot. I think that a 24-foot wide house, from my experience, is a little on the narrow side. And I haven't heard from any neighbors in the neighborhood come out and complain about it, and I really don't think that it's going to be a detriment to the neighborhood, so I'm going to vote yes.
Application passes 4-3. Nick, will you come up
Thank
and
you.
sign, please?
Yes, you did.
Hi, we need 8 sets of revised plans in order for you to get your building. Okay?
Last case is Frank DiLeonardo and Lance O'Donnell, 8906 Winchester Avenue, Block 221, Lot 1, in the S40 District, to grant a C variance for driveway on a main street, third floor deck, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLarnon?
I have to recuse myself.
Ms. Gubernaldi is recusing herself from this case.
Thank you, Board Chairman and Board members. My report is dated June 19th, 2017. In regard to 8906 Winchester Avenue, the applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to construct a single-family dwelling on a previously occupied lot that has been since raised. The only identifiable variance is to allow a driveway opening or curb cut on Winchester Avenue when the permitted location is off Union Avenue. The location of the proposed curb cut is at the same location as the existing one, which remains today. During my review, I came up with another variance required for a third floor deck. Even though it's an AC platform, there's a entryway into the third floor, and it's a fairly large platform, and it is technically a deck, so they need a third floor deck variance.
Don't you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll put the connections at grade. We'll follow your suggestion.
I think there's a lot of room there to do that. So that variance goes away? Yeah. So the only variance required is a driveway location, whereas driveways are required to be located off of side streets, streets parallel with Jerome Avenue, and one is not proposed. The zoning chart needs to be clarified for side yards. A variance is needed for the driveway. Third floor deck goes away. Recommendations: the variances being sought require testimony from the applicant to satisfy C1 and C2 criteria where appropriate. The positive and negative criteria testimony will need to be provided to support any variances. The condition of the approval shall be on the applicant receiving all required permits. A planting strip of grass is recommended on both frontages as well as street trees. The proposed shrub shall meet the minimum required for 2 fronts. It appears that the landscape plan on the site plan would meet that requirement. And if approved, 8 sets of plans need to be submitted for board signatures.
Thank you, Mr. McLaren, and members of the board. Chris Balanson for, sorry.
One other comment is provide underground utilities instead of overhead wires if you could. But the overhead utilities do go behind the easement so that may be difficult to accomplish.
It is difficult. We've been working on the overhead utilities for quite some time because they're low. We're trying to get them.
Yes.
It's whatever we do with the utilities there is a big problem and big money. And moving them underground is bigger money than even raising them a little bit.
I meant from the pole to the unit itself.
I'm not sure what the service connection. I'll look at it.
Okay.
We'll look at it, see what it costs. As long as it's not required, we'll see what it costs and if it can be done.
Okay.
Thank you. The property we're talking about is right across the street from the front door of Union Avenue School, 8906 Winchester Avenue. It's what was the institutional-looking building that nobody ever kind of knew what it was. It was actually three condos or 3 apartments. That building, out of place as it was, is being replaced with a new single-family home designed by Mark Zawacki. It is a variance-free home aside from the site improvement that we're here to speak of is the curb cut, which is existing on Winchester Avenue, and we would like it to remain there for a variety of good and sound reasons. And I'm not going to repeat all those good and sound reasons because Mark's just going to repeat them after me. But let's have Mr. Zawacki sworn in.
Could you state your name and business address, please?
My name is Mark Zawacki. I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey.
And you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And your business address was? It's on your...
1555 Zion Road in Northfield.
Thanks.
Mark, you're an architect, licensed practice in the state, and prepared the plan for the board to consider.
Yes, I am.
Kindly take the board through the house that you've designed and some of the attributes of the design. Now let's talk about the curb cut on Winchester and why it should be retained.
All right, the existing house, this would be Winchester, this is Union Avenue here. The existing driveway right now is located off Winchester. The address, of course, is 8906 Winchester Avenue, so the entrance really should face Winchester Avenue. Plus the fact when people come to the house, they can pull right in, walk right straight down and get into the house right here or come in the back way. Whereas if we did an entrance from Union, you'd be backing up here, and of course this intersection being a four-way stop sign, you have people that would be going through here that it could be a little bit more dangerous than off of Winchester because of the stop sign intersection here. And plus the fact that this becomes a very long, narrow, 10-foot strip, and it's 75 feet to the garage, so backing out would be a problem. Whereas what we suggest is a garage and 2 parking spots that would be easily accessible to go in for egress and
Did you say garage?
Yeah, there is a garage right here.
Oh, I didn't see it on the plans, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is a garage back there, so that's the 3rd parking spot.
Mark, the lot is, what, 93 feet long or 96 feet long? Deep from Union Avenue?
I believe it is, yes.
And with the...
97 feet.
And if the front facade were facing Union and the driveway on the ocean side of the house, that would be a driveway of some 75 feet, plus a garage, which would be 4 cars stacked?
Exactly.
And the plan that you've proposed obviously eliminates that.
Yes, plus the fact that this is a more open, visible way of getting in and out of the driveway.
Now, the driveway on Winchester Avenue is not an alien setup at this particular intersection, is it?
No. The existing curb cut right now is located here, and we'd actually reduce some of the concrete here, and it would be located in the same position that it is now.
The house next door on Winchester has a curb cut there as well?
Well, they're kind of joined together, but the main curb cut is off the other side.
And the house across the street have the curb cut at the same location, Winchester Avenue?
The houses over here, this is our location, these have curb cuts directly across, so they'd be almost directly across from each other.
And that is a controlled intersection leading to, so you don't have an issue with cars speeding by necessarily when you're trying to back out?
Right, correct, because if anything, you'll be slowing down because of the stop sign.
That's, in your experience, that is contrary to what might happen on the Union Avenue side when somebody's coming off the stop sign at the corner of Union, kind of expecting a free pass up to Ventnor, and then you may have somebody backing out of that 4 stack driveway.
Well, it's just a problem just backing out 75 feet. You have 10 feet to back out 75 feet. Plus, by the time you get to the curb cut, there's a big tree that's located, right here. So, I mean, visibility and things like that is pretty...
From an aesthetic standpoint, having the front facade in a location like this, essentially across from City Hall.
Oh, absolutely.
What does that do?
It just makes it a grander elevation. It's more of a center entrance into the building, which would be here with 2 wings on the side and keeps all the circulation in the middle.
Mark, I didn't see the garage on the plans. What's the size of the garage?
There is, on the final drawings, it's 28 by 12.
Is that more than 250 square feet?
I think you're about 400, and I think it's for what, two car, is it? 450?
This is height zone A where it's 250 square feet.
You only have a 1-car garage.
Okay, well, we can reduce that.
Okay.
That's no big deal. I was just trying to give them additional storage space in the back, so.
Mark, your front landscaping easily exceeds or meets the ordinance requirement?
Yes, it does.
And talk to me about the front setback of 17 feet on Winchester Avenue. What does that do to your house if you were required to do the driveway to the avenue?
Well, it's actually, the setback here is a required setback due to the adjacent property like you just had before of 14'10". So for us to accommodate the other situation, I would need a 10-foot setback over here, which means the building would have to shrink 2 feet.
So if you were to put the driveway in Union, what you're saying is Right now, if you keep it on Winchester, you can have an 8-foot setback on Union Avenue, what's called a side yard here.
Right,
But if you're forced to put the driveway there, you have to increase to at least 10.
and correct. And also what it does here is it makes this softer in between the houses versus a hard surface and drainage issues between the houses.
Explain what that means. You just kind of ran through
Well,
that.
because of this being impervious surface, of course, the water's gonna come to this area and go to the street, so there's gonna be more flow of water when it rains
If you have-
versus
if you have a hun-
percolation.
If you have a 100-foot driveway running up the side of the house.
Yeah, it's
you're
gonna
not-
all, it's all gonna be running down the street.
Or the neighbors.
Right, and now what happens is it's all soft, so it'll percolate into the ground and also run to the street.
Mark, do you see any detriment to having the driveway there on Winchester Avenue versus the Union Avenue facade?
Absolutely not.
I have sent a letter to Chief Wilson asking that if he had any issue with respect to traffic safety related to this request, to let me know. I have not heard from him at all, and I've actually followed that up with a telephone call, and have not heard from him at all. I gave him a copy of the plan, a month ago. A month ago. That's all I have.
Chris, I have a question. When we were walking the property the other day, the driveway, 3/4 of it, of the curb cut is on this property. And 1/4 is on the neighbor's property. Is your intention to take that out and make it,
Let him finish his question.
and make it where their property gets their curb? Because they don't have a driveway there.
It's going to be delineated properly.
But are you
On us.
redoing the curb cut and closing it in to make it a regular 2-car driveway?
The answer is yes.
All I want to know. Thank you.
So they're going to take away the curb cut on the next property that's not usable, correct?
It's not a real curb cut. Yeah, it's not wide enough.
But I'm saying, you're going to take it away on their property? Is that what you said?
We're gonna make it so it's not one longer apron anymore. It's gonna be a curb, a defined curb cut, and they're gonna have just some depressed curb next to it, I think.
I didn't know what I thought Tom was saying he wanted you to fix the other side of it. I'm not sure. I thought you were saying you wanted it to get rid of that excess curb cut. Is that what you were saying?
I didn't understand that. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Since Roger said that the underground utilities are not in absolute condition, and look at that, the curb cut is a yes. It'll be defined
Thanks.
and cleaned up on the other side. That's all I got.
Anyone here from is there a question?
I just have one question. What do you have against putting a scale on the plans?
Microphone.
It's not listed there, at 1/8 inch equals a foot?
Just says scale.
Scale as required?
Yes.
It's not in the title block? Really? It'll be on there.
Yeah, we'd like it any time in the future, put the scale on there. Anyone from the public here to question or comments? Public portion's closed. Any other discussion from the board or questions?
Ready for motion?
We're ready for a motion.
Chris, with the curb cut, tell me exactly what you're gonna do.
The curb cut will be a defined curb cut on the property. Any remainder curb within the municipal right of way will be repaired. Or?
We need a motion for C variance relief to permit a driveway along Winchester Avenue where such a driveway is not permitted, with the following conditions. The applicant will submit revised plans showing the elimination of the third floor deck variance that Mr. McLaren report noted. The applicant will revise his plans to show a compliant one-car garage, and the applicant will remove any curb cut within the city right-of-way, and the other conditions and recommendations noted in Mr. McLaren's report, unless modified herein.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Tom Collins?
This is kind of an easy one. I think you did a great job on your design. I'm glad you put it on Winchester Avenue. I think that's the highest and best use for this property. The old Coast Guard home, the condos, they're a front was right there. I like what you're providing in landscaping. I think you're gonna really improve the neighborhood. You're gonna make City Hall look bad, but it's gonna be a big improvement. The drainage will be contained. I don't really think that would have been a problem anyway, because during Sandy, everybody went in front of City Hall because it's high there. But I think it has many, many more benefits to the neighborhood, and I don't really see any detriments. I vote in favor.
Clem Wozleski,
I'm still a little confused as to what the variances are.
The only variance they need is to allow a driveway opening on Winchester Avenue. And while we're on that, I don't think it's appropriate for the board to require them to remove the depressed curb on the neighbor's property. The city actually put that back in.
He said it was fine. Agreed to it. It's only a small section. It's gonna finish the street.
Right, but
It's not usable.
Right.
Here's the property line right here.
And we're already voting.
I'll tell you what, I'll follow. just
But we're
follow-
already voting and you agreed to it, so I mean,
I'm
at
not,
this point.
I'll follow, whatever is ultimately
change
decided
the
on that, I'll
votes.
follow. Whatever's ultimately decided, I'll follow. Change it.
I'm gonna try to vote and start over again.
okay. Clem Wozleski,
This backing out onto a main street like Winchester Avenue is of a real concern to me.
Well, we're gonna hold up a second. We're gonna take a 2-second break here.
If a motion was not articulated properly or was a mistake, we can take a step back before a vote's been taken and get it right, if there's some more discussion that needs to be taken.
What's your concern? It's like a 4-foot curb cut or less
Correct.
that's left over.
Right. I don't think it's appropriate for the applicant to be required to remove that. I don't think it's in the city's best interest to require them to remove that.
We make applicants put up bulkheads.
That's true, but it benefits them.
No, I'm saying what's the benefit of a 3-4-foot curb cut? Isn't that more of a detriment?
But I guess my argument is when the city has a paving program, the city put that driveway back in. They could have left it out.
Well, it was one continuous driveway though.
Right.
But they could have stopped short. They didn't. The past practice has been to not remove driveways that belong to another property, even whether it's a usable driveway or not. Maybe they use it for a baby shower. I don't know, but
It's 3 feet.
a little bit more than 3 feet. Again, I think it's inappropriate for the board to make that requirement.
I think we make requirements all the time.
If it was that property, yes, I would agree with you. But this is the next door neighbor's property.
Property owner's not here, probably.
That's
No,
my only
she's
concern,
not.
the property
Okay,
not here.
so
I don't know how they use it.
How can we make a decision without their input as to their property?
Oh, it's technically not their property. It's the city property.
Right.
Well, it's their driveway.
We just did this on Nassau Avenue with a driveway that wasn't involved.
If it's 3 feet, like Roger said, if they use it for a stroller, if they use it,
They could still use the neighbor's driveway.
well, then they're trespassing.
No, it's
Well-
not their property.
Even a building permit, it's a municipal permit to do it. It's city property. If they're willing to do it, then do it. They do it. We don't have to make them do it.
No, we can. It's a condition.
I just don't want this neighbor calling me up, what are they doing, ripping out my driveway?
I mean, if they're willing to do it.
I think Roger.
Pending neighbors,
Right.
pending neighbors' approval?
Roger makes a good point on that.
He does, but it's kind of a dangerous little thing there to have this half.
And if somebody trips in that little piece and say, well, the city put it in, now goes through the city, we're getting rid of it. The city put it in, we're making them get it.
And no, in the city, they replaced what was there, which didn't make sense. They just replaced what was there. So it's not like there was a
That's been
reason.
standard practice, but
But the
again,
driveway had disappeared on the actual people's property. It wasn't a driveway
The
anymore.
applicant already agreed to this. I don't know why we're making
Because we
Because
need
I'm gonna hear
approval.
the results in the office 3 months from now, 4 months from now.
Yeah. No, but we can add one thing to make it subject to the next door neighbor's approval.
Can't the city just send a letter?
Well, I would imagine that's what they're gonna do unless you wanna knock on their door, Joe. Yes.
If you don't tell them, they're not.
I think you have to tell them.
What's wrong with just saying pending neighbors approval?
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what I agree.
So we'll modify it to pending neighbor's approval.
Yeah, my vote and comments are the same with them.
Same question on that, it's not their property, why are we getting permission from them?
So they don't complain to Roger. This is all consideration to him.
Roger, but I mean, why are we,
Because Mike, it's
why are
theirs.
we asking people about city property?
It's theirs to use.
Because the only question here was Roger didn't want to hear the people come in complaining.
I agree with you.
Well, then that's why we're asking them.
I just think we don't have to ask for this.
And then it creates people coming in. We're going round
It
and
is-
around
it
here.
is
So if
theirs
we
to
ask them
use.
first, then we won't have that problem.
The bottom line is we're taking away something on a neighboring property that
They can use. whether
that
it's on
they
their
might be
property or
using.
not.
Pending, we're amending it to pending neighbor's approval.
And I don't think, for Mike, I don't think we're asking for permission, we're just asking for feedback.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a more appropriate way to describe it.
Maybe from a prosecutor's point of view.
All right, so-
Clem Wozleski,
Interrupting the conversation. No, as to this driveway backing out onto Winchester Avenue, I know one exists, although I don't know how much it was ever used. And I know there are other driveways that do it. However, I parked at that location for a while yesterday, watching the traffic. And although I know it was stated in the application that the cars slow down, they don't. They come roaring cars and trucks down Winchester Avenue as if there's no stop sign at all at Union, and then slam on their brakes. And I know if I voted for this, the first time there was an accident there, it would bother my conscience, so I vote against it.
Rich Patterson,
I vote for it. I think the parking design without stacking 4 cars in a 75-foot driveway makes all the sense. I think it compensates for the backing out onto Winchester Avenue. And the second compensation is the stop sign right there. That they're 50 or 70 feet from the stop sign where people should be at a slower pace by that point.
Jim Galantino,
That was going to be my comment about the stop sign, because they have to stop, and it's a one-way street, so there's no way the traffic can come out, and then on Union, it's a one-way going up. So I vote in favor for the application.
Mike Cristaldi,
I think backing out on Union, being a one-way, would be more dangerous than coming out on Winchester. I really do, Clem. So I gotta vote yes. I live on a one-way street similar, Monmouth Avenue. And I'd much rather back out onto Monmouth than I would out onto Pembroke. So I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano,
I like the way you're utilizing Union Avenue for looks. And the curb cut has always been there. Cars have been backing out of there for a long, long time. They're across the street backing out, and there is a stop sign coming up to it. So I'm in favor of this. I vote yes.
Mike Richmond,
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Patterson's comments and also Mr. Palmisano. I think having that long stacked parking on Union Avenue would be a disaster. And I think, like we said, that building's been there forever. That curb cut's been there forever. I don't remember ever seeing an accident there, so I'm going to vote yes.
application passes 6-1.
Thanks, everybody.
Chris, will you come sign, please?
Just as a comment
Sets
on that,
revised plans.
we just did the exact same thing at Nassau and Monmouth. We told him he had to get rid of his curb cut, and we took off the next people's without asking. It shouldn't have been there, and we took it off. We just did it. We didn't even ask for permission. We did it at city expense, which was a mistake, but we did
Are we
it.
gonna talk about stuff? Because there's
Yes.
something I wanted to
Oh, no,
bring up.
we have other
Yeah.
stuff to talk about, but go ahead, Mike. You want to bring something up?
Yeah, and, you know, I like to hear, I don't know if Roger brought it or not, but the thing about the, not counting the grass strip as landscape coverage.
That's one of the things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because, you know, I've been building in town here for 30 years, and that's the first, and I'm not saying, what's in the ordinance, if you read it, Roger's correct, but I just think that's something that needs to be corrected. I think that went back, I don't think it's always been that way. I think that went back to a while ago, and maybe Jimmy, when people were like down in like Monroe Avenue, were just parking on their lawns and stuff like that, and we wanted to get rid of that. But, you know, that's really not happening anymore, so I just think that should be corrected. We should allow the grass strip to be counted as landscape coverage. It's impervious, and you know, 9 times out of 10 people aren't parked there anyway, so what's the big deal? You know what I mean?
Before we go into the other thing, well, it's fresh. Last month, we were fighting because of putting in four-stack parking. This month, we're using four-stack parking as a reason to give other variances.
We're saying it's better.
Roger, you need to do some investigation on it.
We're talking about that tonight. All that stuff's being tonight. Excuse me?
I think we ought to be able to put brick and say on the same, so it's still pervious, and that way I don't have to clean up after everybody's dog.
You got some big dogs in that neighborhood.
The ordinance does allow you to do that.
Oh my God.
But it does not count as landscape if you do that.
You mean I can't bring the dog food?
It, under the previous zoning officer, if it had sand under it, it was counted as permeable land, and that's not, we're not doing that. So,
Hey, Tom, I need you to speak into the microphone, and this is being recorded, so I still need one at a time.
So there's several issues here. One, even if it's grass, it doesn't count against the total landscape. Or they have the option of putting grass or not, it doesn't count towards landscape. Or if they do brick it with permeable, it definitely doesn't count towards landscape. One of Roger's comments when he brought this up was it's going to have a effect on bringing the houses down a little bit because it's going to meet the landscape requirements. I've made a habit over the last 2 years of looking at all these things we approve after they're done, and it shocks me. I mean, if you notice, I've been voting no more lately. I mean, I'm just shocked when I see some of these places that we've approved, and a lot of things that we didn't approve that are showing up on these places. My first reaction was agreeing with Mike that it should count because I like the grass in the driveway. I would still like to see the grass in the driveway, but the fact that it might put some pressure to downsize some of these houses, I think is a benefit. So that really threw it up in the air for me, that I was against what Roger had said, and then that really threw it up the air, and I started leaning towards it just for the fact of putting some pressure to downsize some of these houses. I don't think anything we do is going to make these houses unlivable for people that want to come down here with big houses.
I have a question based on what you said for Leo. If what Rich says that we eliminate that strip as coverage, and then you're deficient on your landscaping, so a applicant comes in and says, okay, you took away that strip, now I can't get it, so I need a landscape variance.
Well, wait, you would have to make the house smaller.
Let me finish my thing. We turn them down, they go to court and appeal it. What would a judge or from the legal side, I mean, it's hard to say, would they say, well, Margate, you're so restrictive that we're gonna enforce that and make you give them a variance? Or are they gonna say it's not a just cause? Just your opinion.
My opinion is that the ordinance is consistent with the master plan, which I assume it would be. You know, a judge shouldn't be in a position to say, oh, you made this ordinance too restrictive, therefore, you know, I'm going to grant the approval. If you did that, they'd have to come in, and if the ordinance required a landscaping variance, they'd have to get it. I don't see that as a huge, look, you might get more people trying and said, if they get denied a variance, saying what we did was arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable, but I don't think it'll get as far as a judge saying what you did was wrong because you made the ordinance too restrictive.
Let's throw it to Roger, though. If we eliminated that, would they not be able to get their house coverage and landscape coverage? They still would be able to get their, wouldn't
Sure
they,
they would.
without a variance?
I was just notified about a house at South Nassau Avenue, Beach Block. They removed all the grass strips in their driveways, and those grass strips counted as at least half of their front yard landscaping. Now they're down to 10%, where they need 60.
Did you tell them they couldn't do it?
We sent them a summons.
Okay.
Well, I mean.
But no, my question was, a bare land house, and if we take away that strip as being counted towards, because it's not,
They
not
would have to
everybody
re-
puts a strip in. Can't
Right.
they still meet landscape requirements and the building coverage requirements?
Sure they could.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's.
And my comment assumed that if you make it impossible to comply with the ordinance, then that's another story where.
No, I presume what happened was somebody started counting that towards the landscape coverage to allow an 8-foot porch instead of a 6-foot porch, or a 25-foot wide building instead of a 22-foot wide building.
But it is landscape, it's grass, it's permeable.
Not when a car's parked on top of it.
I love crosswalk.
Right.
Here's my
I mean,
On the legal end, okay, so, like I said, I've been a builder in town for 30 years. I have never once heard that did not count as landscape coverage. So I'm sure you could go through a slew of houses, even new houses are being built now, and it counted as landscape coverage. Now, moving forward, just like we did with the pools, but, from a legal standpoint, if I got my balls busted about that, if I was, whatever, I would say, well, what about these 20 or 30 other houses that are being built? The other thing is, I think it's a hardship. I think it's a hardship that we don't count that as landscape coverage. I really, we have, Margate is one of the greenest towns probably on the whole coast. You go to Avalon, Stone Harbor, Ocean City, we have huge, big, much, even Longport, much bigger I'm a builder, I go around to the different areas. We have much more stringent requirements on landscaping, trees, which I think is a great thing.
And it's not being enforced, and it's getting worse and worse. We're losing all the big trees.
I don't know if it's not being enforced.
There's 18 trees on my block that aren't there.
Huh?
18 trees on my block alone that aren't there that should be there.
What do you mean they should be there?
New houses that don't have trees.
Well, why don't we say something about it?
Why? Who's not enforcing it? Who should
I
be
mean,
enforcing
We
it?
don't have anything to enforce.
If it's a new house and they were required to put 2 trees in,
Right, why aren't
and
they
they
there?
didn't, they don't get a CO.
Why aren't they there? I mean, I know,
You're talking
when
about
I do
brand new?
One at a
every
time,
job we do, we have
please.
street trees. I mean, that's like a no-brainer, so why aren't they there?
Well, stop by, I'll show you.
I believe you, but why aren't they there?
Is
Well,
it
I
new
can't answer that.
construction?
He's talking about old growth
Mike,
trees.
I'm talking about trees in front of a house, 0 trees.
No, new houses? I mean, a new house is required to have 2 street
Are you-
trees, 1.5 width. I mean, you know.
What Rich is talking about is old growth trees.
I am not.
No.
You're telling me they not put their 3-inch tree in?
1.5.
Inch and a half.
What is it? 1.5?
3.5.
3.5?
Jim,
Yes.
Really?
Diameter? Caliper, yep.
Get the tree count.
whatever, there's not as
Whatever.
many trees, the
Okay,
big,
but-
I am talking about the big trees being cut down, Margate is not, there were so many canopy streets where you couldn't see the sun.
Right.
Are not there anymore.
Right.
So Margate does have requirements, and we're trying to make it green again, and that's one of our discussions too, about trees that can and can't be put in.
Right, well, I think we're,
Guys, the
If
reason why the
everything-
trees, Mike, the reason why the trees were removed because the fire trucks couldn't get down the street. So they had them cut back. There was a study done 2 years ago, and the big ladder truck couldn't make it down the street, so they went down and trimmed them all back. I didn't know if anybody knew that.
I mean, we're not talking about tree, we're talking about green. Yeah, I think Margate is very proactive when it comes to landscaping and greenery, and I just think that, you're not counting that landscape, that grass strip as landscape coverage is a hardship.
A hardship in that you have to build a smaller house.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the house is, huh?
That's what we're shooting for.
Are we?
Actually, no, we're not.
Are we?
No,
Maybe
because
you are, I'm not.
unless
I'm
you're
not saying I want
willing-
these big giant monstrosities, that's
One-
why we have setbacks. You know, I think the setbacks are pretty restrictive.
Unless you're willing, Clem, to pay double your taxes because we're not building in Margate anymore, you're gonna have the bigger, newer homes. And to control them by landscaping, grass is grass. I mean, we had the case where here's a tree, a fence. I mean, come on. Grass is grass. If it's grass, it's permeable, it should count. Mike's right. You can't say because grass might have a car parked over it, it doesn't count.
I'm saying it because it says it in the ordinance, Tom.
But we should change it.
Right,
It
that's
should be
what we're
counted.
talking about, changing
Grass
the
is
ordinance.
grass.
Yeah. And
I don't
one-
think-
Well, that's what we're here for, to change it or not
Right,
change it.
to discuss it. And the other thing is, so if we don't count it as landscape coverage, does that mean that it could be filled in?
Yes.
So then it wouldn't be, now we're losing a permeable for a non-permeable, right?
Well, how
But they're
many?
compliant somewhere else on the property.
Say what?
They would be compliant elsewhere on the property.
Right.
But aesthetically, it wouldn't look as.
But the problem is they're filling them in anyway.
Jim, and how many, do most people put grass strips in now? They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Temporarily.
Well, that's an enforcement issue too,
What is?
if they fill it in
With
later.
7,000 line
Right.
items, Jim Galantino cannot keep track of everyone putting.
He works 3 hours a
I'll
day.
take the job, I'll get a tree counter.
Listen, you could probably make a lot of, you could pay the person's salary for the fines you distribute,
Right,
I'll say.
get the job.
Here's a suggestion. I don't know if that's practical, but we want more green.
Grass grow.
People want to count the grass strip. I think it's clear that it's not intended to be counted, but we still want to see it there. Can we still require people to have that grass strip but not count it?
Say
That would be
again?
It's kind
unfair.
of double dip.
That'd be a hard sell.
I don't think so.
I do.
There's no incentive to put it in.
The incentive is if you want your variance or your home, your building permit approved, that's what you have to do. So I'm saying go so far the other way, say, no, it doesn't count, and yes, you still have to put it in. It's just a suggestion, I'm not saying,
I'd say it either counts or it doesn't.
well, that's realistic.
But at this point, we're going against what, we have to do something here tonight, because we've been breaking the rules for 30 years, allowing that to count when the ordinance says it does not count.
So based on past practices, then we should reverse it, get rid of the ordinance.
Well, that's the option. We either leave it like it is, and then it doesn't count.
I have
or
not been
we-
enforcing it either.
Roger, can I ask you something? What's the amount that people, like percentage-wise, what's the average percentage that landscape
Can
is
he talk?
giving?
Yeah. Does he need to be sworn in for that?
Yes.
Sworn in?
Yes.
Yeah, as a citizen.
Yes, he gets
Citizen.
sworn in.
All right, Peter Weiss,
Your business address, Mr. Woods?
101 North Washington Avenue.
Swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do. I was actually kind of prepared to talk about this tonight, but we got postponed. So, but I think on a typical lot, assuming the strip is basically 2.5 feet wide and it's 50-something feet long for 3 cars, you know, we're talking an average 125 square feet. That's kind of a lot. And I think on an average
S25 lot, that's basically 5% of the lot. So me as a designer, if you say all of a sudden it doesn't count, I need another 125 square feet, it's probably going to go in the backyard, right, where nobody's going to see it. So it's really not going to benefit anybody from the street by,
It benefits percolation, it benefits,
No,
You
no,
have
no,
the
no, no, no,
percolation in
that's
the
not what we're saying.
driveway.
We're saying we're
What's the
taking it from
difference?
here, we're putting it back there. So, I mean, it makes.
I'm
more sense.
discussing.
Yeah, I
So
know.
that strip is only given about 5% towards their
Well,
landscape
5% out of the 35%.
No, that's 5/35, not 5%.
5% of the lot,
Oh,
but we require 30, so that's 15% of the total.
approximately 15% towards their landscape requirement, you're saying? Average?
No, what I'm trying to say is, that amounts to probably about 5% of the lot area, where 35% has to be.
Could you give me a number as to what percentage of landscape, what amount of landscape
I'll tell
coverage
you in a
they're getting
second.
from that
Well, that's what
driveway?
I said, on a typical lot, it's 125 square feet or so.
What I'm thinking, that's where I'm going, is let's limit, say, fine, you can have that. but you-
14.28%.
Thank you. Could we max it, say, you can have that, but you can only get it in a lot, it's say, I'm just giving a number, only 5% of that driveway landscaping will go towards your landscape coverage that you're required to meet. Since it's being covered with driveways, since they're removing it. So you can have more, but you're only gonna get 5% of that towards your landscape coverage amount.
The biggest impact will be in the multifamily zone where you have the multifamily units and they're relying on those strips in the front yard to meet the front yard landscape requirements. Wouldn't you agree on that, Peter?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But we're trying
That's-
to avoid
It's been working
taking it
this
away
way
from
for-
them because that's how it stands as it is now. So we're giving them something to reduce the hardship, but still maintain green in Margate. Can
been
you
working
cap the
this way.
percentage they get?
It's been working this way for 30 years. I think nobody obviously realized that that was in the ordinance until Roger picked up on it. So
I just have one comment. With the driveway, if you have a 50-foot of concrete with water running down it, if you have a 2.5-foot strip of grass in it, it's going to absorb the water from not running into the street and percolate into the ground, wouldn't it? I mean, and it's aesthetically pleasing to me.
Pete, what are you saying that if we made, what was your calculation again, 125 square feet of
Well,
of
give or
house
take,
would
I
be-
mean, you got 50, 3 cars deep, you're 54 feet, minus 2.5, whatever. I mean, the grass strips vary in width, of course, a little bit, but average is probably 2.5 feet.
Most towns do count it.
Say what?
Most towns do count that strip towards the landscape requirement.
So why don't we just say?
Well, we can, we're here to discuss it.
Well, I can,
Does everybody feel that way? Is anybody against it? Well, it seems the consensus is to make it part of the ordinance that it does count, so let's do that.
We need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I
You
would
want-
have asked for a motion when we were done discussing it, but
Seemed to be done when they all said they wanted it. So you wanna do your all in favor?
so you need to do a resolution, correct?
How do you typically do it? Usually it starts with the commissioners, they send it over to us for a review, consistency determination, and we send it back and they adopt it. I know sometimes they'll say, well, it's just started here, you draft something and send it over.
Right. What we'll do is, I'll bring in a marked up version draft of the ordinance change for our review and our approval to go to the governing body. It'll be a consistency report with the,
To us
Okay.
first or to the governing body?
us.
Yeah.
Rich, you're gonna be mad, but can we cap the amount of landscape, like coverage percentage they can get from that driveway? So that they're not having a full concrete jungle house and then just like a long,
Well, they still have to abide by the, what is it, 35%? They still have to have 35%.
right, but the whole issue is they're pulling a lot of that from their driveway strip.
Only 14%.
They're not pulling a lot of it, no.
Right.
They're pulling a very minimal amount of it. But a minimal amount, when you're building a house, would be like 25 square feet. And that's kind of like, not a minimal amount when you're building a house, to take that away from the house.
What if-
So, and it doesn't benefit, like Peter said, they're just gonna, let's just forget about it, you know?
See how you feel.
It's worked for 30 years, I'm
What is it we're trying to accomplish? Clarifying the ordinance?
yes.
Well, the number
Being
one
consistent with the
accomplishment is
ordinance.
we're not following the ordinance.
Right.
So the consensus of the room was change the ordinance. So I don't know if we need a vote. Roger's going to bring up something that we can vote on at the next meeting, correct? You're going to bring a draft.
Right. There's really nothing to
Resolution.
vote on right now.
Right, so he'll bring up a draft resolution at the next meeting. We'll vote on sending that to the commissioners. So we don't need to do anything now. If you oppose it, we can vote no next time, but the consensus was to do that, so that's what we'll do.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes,
Um,
it's been the same for 30 years.
No. Now, this is another thing that's been the same for a while, and I understand what you're saying, but I think we got to be clear about this, was the thing with the third floor deck being used for HVAC, because there's a lot of houses that that are built that have a little notch out on the third floor, like, you know, just to have the HVAC units rather than having them on a platform on the ground.
Well-
So, I mean, I can see if somebody uses an excuse to have an I didn't really see how big that deck was that they were
The
proposing.
door was pretty big.
Right, but you gotta, you know, I mean, I think that should be clarified, and I think that it may, I don't know, we gotta say, you know, the size, but, you know, I don't see a reason why we should not allow that to have the units, up on the deck rather than on the side of the house where they, you know, they are noisier or whatever. When you have them all the way up in the air, then I think they're less obtrusive, and, you know, I mean, it's been, again, that's been that way for a while. You follow me?
I've seen it more frequent lately. But there was one
I've
review,
seen-
there was a deck, it was probably 10 by 15 feet.
Well, that's
or-
what I'm saying, that's an abuse, that's not right, so maybe we need to
Outside
clarify
access only?
something. Huh?
Outside access
No,
only?
because then, how are you gonna get the units up there, by a crane, or?
Yeah,
You have to
mine
put a
were
ladder.
carried up a ladder. Mine's
Huh?
mine's up on the third floor and it was carried up on a ladder.
Well,
They were better builders.
I
One
think,
at a
you know,
time.
I think it's a safety
Rich.
issue. I think it's safer if you have some type of little 5-foot high by 3-foot wide access door to be able to access the unit than it send some guy up on a 30-foot ladder, especially when we got the 12-foot flood elevations now, to, you know, to do the unit, or, you know, really get a, you know, I think that needs to be clarified. I don't know how you want to word
clarify
that.
what Mike is trying to say. Roger could actually make the determination of what's adequate working room around a HVAC unit and make it, doesn't matter the door size because you need somebody to get out there.
Right.
But make it that you can't exceed 100 square feet. to
That's
have a
even
ca-
too big. You don't
I'm
even-
just,
yeah,
I don't know what
yeah.
it would be, 50, what, 20 square
Right,
feet.
right.
But whatever number Roger would determine, and then we would say that.
I have allowed it within reason, but when the plan says deck and it's huge and there's a full-size
yeah, I
door to get to
totally-
it, that's
yeah,
a
and I
deck.
think so,
Right.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is if the ordinance read that it could only
And it's on the
be,
third floor.
it could only be so many square feet, then you just tell
Well,
them
I
per
think
unit.
maybe when Roger reviews a plan and he sees that, you know, obviously that nobody's going to be sunbathing on something where you're, you know, there's that much room, which most of these things are. But when it comes up, like you said, where somebody's, you know, you got 2 units on a 10 by 13 foot.
Well, there's an exterior
and you're
light,
calling
there's
it
outlets out
Yeah,
there.
then
No,
that's
this
a
was-
different story.
but that's
Then
what
you
he
got to
did.
call it
But
out.
that's what he did.
Right,
That's
that's,
what he did
good.
tonight. He's
No,
never
I'm
done that
totally
before,
agreeing
right.
with that. Yeah, but I just was a little disturbed because, you know, I have built houses in Margate where, you know, you have the units on the 3rd floor cut into the roof about yay by yay, and there's a little access door, which I think is a safer, much easier way, and a better way to deal with it.
But that's never been disallowed.
I know. Well, I just want to make sure.
Well, the reason I brought it up tonight, because it was larger, had a door,
Right.
and there's plenty of room on
Okay.
the house,
All right,
around
good.
on the yard.
Right. No, I totally agree with you.
Normally, I asked them to say, can you reduce the size of the deck?
Right. Good. All right. That's all I want to say.
And call it a platform.
I got enough to worry about.
Can we put grass on that 3rd floor?
But it won't count.
Artificial?
It won't count.
No, actually, the new thing is green roofs.
Yeah, I see.
Right.
There's a couple other, there's several other things. One of them is, Mike Cristaldi and I met with members of the Green Team regarding that vote that was supposed to be taken tonight. The main purpose of that meeting was regarding trees, but we got into the Atlantic Avenue thing, and I told her I'm no longer fighting it, I'm not losing sleep over it, but she wanted to know my objections, and I said besides changing from 2 lanes to 1 lane, I didn't want to talk about that, I don't want to fight it, but there is and even in that instance, it gives 2 options: make the 2 lanes smaller by a foot and make the bike lane bigger, or go to the 1 lane. But it definitely says we recommend that the yellow blinking lights not happen anymore in the wintertime. And I said, that's crazy. I don't think anybody in the board's going to approve that. And she said, what's that doing in there? I don't agree with that. Everybody in the Green Team said, that's stupid. Why is that in there? And she said, maybe I can do something about it. And I said, well, how about if we postpone the vote and you see what you can do over the next month? And she said she was going to work on that. So that's why I postponed, but we can discuss it tonight, so we're ready for next if you want. We have other things to discuss, but that's what happened, and that's why it was postponed, was trying to get that. She said, well, you're not bound by it. And I said, but what it's saying is the planning board is approving your recommendation to get rid of it. So someone pushing for no blinking lights can say, well, the planning board wants it, the city commission wants it, so you're going to have it. And I told her I had a problem with that.
I have a problem with it.
I have a problem with it. I have a problem with a couple of things.
Well, we'll go talk about the other. Go ahead. We're in that area, so let's talk about it.
I mean, I read it. It's saying we're agreeing with a lot if we just blanket approve this. I just want us to be aware of what we're saying we agree with. Do you really want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. Gosh, it's just like 5 points, really.
We listened to Mike all that time. Go ahead.
30 years.
And those roads have been that way for 30 years, and I don't know why they want to change.
Right. So the first thing, basically I'm sorry, I just gotta find my starting point. But they kind of start off by saying they got extensive community outreach, extensive community support. And I immediately, that put up a red flag for me, because the actual numbers, and this is from them. Let me give it to you because I don't want to misstate it. I just wrote them all down, I'm sorry. Where is it? Bear with me 1 second.
Come prepared next time.
What's that?
Come prepared next time.
I am, I just did it, I'm so sorry. Here we go. All right, so page 5, they're talking about how they had extensive local participation, which kind of implies that people are in favor of this, or they got input from a large number of the community. They quote Ventnor as 10,000 off-season, 38,000 in the peak, like summer season. Margate is 6,300 approximately. Off-season, 31,000 in the summer seasons. If you move to page 35 from their report, they break down more specifically what kind of input they got. And if you look at it, they had first public meeting, they said the 2 meetings, including Ventnor meeting, Margate meeting, had a combined attendees of 100 people.
And they did not allow public input.
Okay, and public meeting 2 in August of 16, combined 2 town meetings had approximately 70 attendees. So my interpretation of, say, 38,000 Ventnor, 31,000 Margate, combined with the 4 meetings having, 170 people, that's not extensive community input. And then they talk about how they have this, study website with interactive communication. There were 127 submitted comments, and just looking only at the road diet, 11 of those 127 comments were for it, and 6 of them, of the 127 comments, were against it. So we have 17 people from the community that gave their input.
So yeah, your word extensive, it's less than 3%.
It's very misleading, and I think
Well, one of the problems was they refused to say that it was changing 2 lanes to 1 lane. They called it shrinkage, they called
Which is
it
even more
road diet, they
misleading.
called it, well, Seinfeld calls it shrinkage, so.
So that I had a major issue with. I don't think that this report that's outlining how much community participation there was, it's not accurate. There wasn't, and if I believe there was an actual community participation, that there'd be a much, much greater opposition to the two-lane highway on Atlantic Avenue.
At a meeting of the heads of departments after the two public meetings, a guy almost came across the table after me saying, "What do you want us to do, bang on every door?"
No.
Wait, no.
Yeah.
I didn't answer him because I just said, "You want to take me outside and beat me up?" But, we have, for free, we have a system that calls every home in Margate for free, and we have that. We can actually knock on every door, but
That was one issue I had, just with the misleading as far as community participation. I don't think that that's accurate, and I don't think that if we did actually have it, that they would be in favor of it. That's one thing. The blinking lights, just to address that, I hope that it does get removed, because we are saying approve these recommendations if we put our name on it. So I don't agree with that. If that's in there, that we should. By their logic alone, if you
that's
look
on
at.
page 56.
Okay, but by their logic, if you look at page 26, I guess it is, for when they address the local and neighborhood streets, they say basically that nothing needs to be done because due to the low traffic speeds and traffic volumes, majority of the local neighborhood streets are comfortable for bicycling without additional treatments.
What
They're
page are you
calling,
on?
26.
I have a picture on my phone of that same street in the summertime with lined on both sides with cars. And I
Right.
brought it up at the meeting. He said nobody parks there, and I said there's no leaves on the trees.
Well, just by their logic in that, if they're saying that when there's low traffic speeds and lower traffic volumes, that things don't need to be done, essentially, that it's fine the way it is. That's how you can interpret that. Well, if you're gonna take that logic and apply it to the off-season, why are you doing blinking lights then? Because there's low traffic speeds and low volumes, so people should be able to bicycle freely and safely. So that's my justification, I believe, to not have that be our recommendation, to remove the blinking lights. I think it allows for better flow of traffic when there's no density.
Green team.
No.
Urban engineers or
No,
DOT?
no, it wasn't the green team.
And it's great and it's thorough, but I
It was
just
the
had some
Department of
issues.
Transportation, and it was, yes.
Urban engineers.
Well, they should, yeah, under the Department of Transportation.
They also
It was not the
said
green
with
team.
those
One at a time, please.
blinking lights, that if we go to a road diet, that we can reduce traffic signals on Atlantic Avenue.
Possibly.
But why would we want to?
You would?
Hey, can I ask a question? Well, I remember talking about this before, we said that, as a, whatever, that we were gonna, allow beach block parking. Is that gonna happen? Is that in the thing?
Yes.
It is?
Well, that's in the master plan.
Oh, good.
That's
Okay.
not, I don't know if it's part of this or not, it may
Right.
be, but that's in the new master plan.
Oh, good, perfect, okay,
Alternate sides, alternate years.
great, awesome, very good.
Rich, just some other things. They give some really.
Go right ahead.
They give some really specific recommendations for what they want to do at, like, say 8 intersections. They say we're going to have treatments that we're going to do at these locations. There's like 8, but they only specifically outline what they're going to do at like 2 of those locations, 2 or 3.
Which-
The one being Gladstone and, what is it, Gladstone and Amherst.
Oh, Huntington and Amherst.
That's another one.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 locations where there's specific designs. One's at Huntington and Fulton.
Right.
Huntington and Amherst,
And
and then
Huntington and Fulton,
Gladstone and
right.
Amherst. So there's 3
Okay.
spots where they design what they're gonna do. At the Gladstone and Amherst, they talk about putting a stop sign before the Gladstone turn, 'cause it's a weird turn. They'd have to put that stop sign up, because when you come up on Gladstone to Amherst, you're forced to make that right, or when you make the right. I don't know where they intend to put what they're saying. I'd have to look at it better, but it just needs to be clear, because
Is there a picture?
the Gladstone and Amherst.
Page 67.
Okay, there it is. Figure 29. The only thing that I would point out, I don't see how it would function. I love the crosswalks. I think that'll help the school children. That island, I think for the traffic flow, it's going to create confusion. Page
68.
And the
Figure
s-
29.
And I have the same opposition to the islands at the Amherst and Huntington and in Huntington and Fulton. They're talking about putting 2 islands at that Huntington, Fulton like circle. It's silly, and I think the crosswalks are great, the stop signs are great. There's not currently a stop sign traveling down Fulton at either location. But the islands, I think, are gonna create confusion for the cars, because just like they're saying now, people aren't gonna know when to go. How will people know when to go with these islands? I think the stop signs are sufficient and the crosswalks are sufficient.
The
Otherwise-
islands help guide the traffic, so you can't go against the traffic.
I get the concept, but functionally, I don't see how it's gonna work, because I think it's gonna be too condensed there. It's gonna be too dense in that little area. I travel that probably conservatively at least 20 times a day.
Me too.
At least 20 times a day. And it functions great. The only issue would be maybe putting a stop sign on those Fulton places, because at Fulton, you don't stop now, and I think people still slow down. So that would be the only thing that would possibly make sense.
I agree with, that's a little dangerous there.
A little
On
bit.
Fulton. It is.
But I just think it's a lot doing all this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a pretty open area, and
island.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna maintain that. I know Margate does an amazing job. I'm sure it'll be great, but it's pretty dense to put 2 islands in that intersection.
And that's it's on every corner. But just kind of to jump in with Despina here and summarize this a little bit, because we could talk forever. And I said this to Mike earlier, you take like my company, True Value, and they come up with all these great plans. And they work for Store Hardware or someplace in Hamilton, but they don't work on the beach. And what they did here with this state is, they took like a boilerplate plan, and it may work in some little rural town, but this whole thing is flawed, totally flawed. And I don't know if you want to keep discussing items, or if we should just get a feeling. If they want to do a presentation and vote on it, and we're going to say no, then we just vote no, and it goes to the committee.
Exactly. I don't think there's going to be a presentation. It's just, I said we will put the vote off because I wanted to find out if they could take out the blinking lights. I knew pretty much everybody would be aware of that. Now, if everybody's against the rest of it, it's going to be a no vote. There's no question there. But we're going to take the vote at the next meeting. We gave them that courtesy to see if she could do anything.
There could be one negative that makes, you want,
We
in your
can't
mind, one negative will throw your.
We cannot take it piece by piece
They give us 2 options
on the road diet.
on the recommendations. There's the one that has the
Some.
blinking lights, and then the one that was the road diet
No.
offer.
The blinking lights was a recommendation. The road diet, there was 2 choices. The blinking lights was we are recommending.
One of their recommendations was 25 miles an hour, and that's already been instituted.
And that's helped.
And the
That's how-
crosswalks is wonderful.
That is fine. But there's others, like Jerome Avenue, they want to make 2 lanes with a bike lane, with 10-foot bike lanes in Jerome Avenue, and nobody can go over the Jerome Avenue Bridge on a bike.
Well, not only that, we're down one lane.
And Rich.
Right, I mean, there's.
One at a time. Go ahead, Craig, you're talking.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things that are wrong, that one item can throw you to say, no, I don't want to do this, like the Jerome Avenue or the Amherst
Right.
Islands.
No, the vote next month will be on this plan. Whether the blinking lights are in it or not, it will be on this plan. So the reason for the delay was to give her a chance to see if she could change that. If that may matter, that may not matter, but that's why it was delayed, and I'd rather have the discussion now, and we can have this, say anybody have any change and discuss other than what we discussed last meeting. So we're discussing it now and save some time next meeting, because this meeting was pretty short.
It's gonna be one vote on the entire plan.
One vote on this.
And then
Now,
you
I
have
think the city commission may have already approved this, but she gets extra points if the planning board approves it. I don't know what that means. No, I don't mean she, I mean the green team gets, for Sustainable New Jersey, just like with Jimmy's insurance, you get so many points for doing certain things, and you reach a certain point, and you get a gold medal.
And this is just a study, this is a conceptual plan. Anything they do in here requires an engineering study to prove that it works.
But you also have trouble if this goes to the commissioners and they turn around and say, well, the whole planning board approved it, we have to go along with them. We don't want to put our, I don't think I want to put.
Well,
my
they already
name on
went
it.
out for a grant to implement some of this stuff.
County did.
No. Atlantic Avenue is a local road. That's why I raised the question, said which concept are we getting a grant for?
Where they missed the pictures that I brought up with Rich was, they're using Ocean City as an example. You go to Ocean City, you stay there. We're a through town. You're going Summers Point, Longport, Egg Harbor, going through Margate.
Atlantic City.
Well, Ocean City, I think, has 7 streets going that way too. We don't. We have
Now,
one.
now they've got all their rules in place and they're doing so well. How come they get so many people killed every year? And when you look at our statistics, I think in 7 years, we only lost, like 1 person.
10 years, 1.
10 years, 1 person.
But in Ocean City, man, you got like 100.
They're coming home from Margate.
Roger knows this. You got 100,000 people coming in and out every week. It's a little different situation.
But just to.
They can't use Ocean City as an example.
No, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, that's a bad.
Just to reinforce what Desmond was saying too, right before our meeting tonight, Stan Silverman, who I know, is in the back. He was here on the Douglas Avenue case. He's the chairman of the board of Drexel University School of Medicine. Nice guy. Lives down the street from the store. Good customer. Talked about Atlantic Avenue, the road diet. Goes, I heard about it. He said, why would we change what's already perfect? He said, the bike lanes are fine, the streets are fine. And this guy's a really smart guy. So, and that's just, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. And they're gonna ask us to put our name to it. I'm
Okay,
not gonna do it.
I totally disagree.
I'm not
We're
gonna do
doing all this for 3 weekends out of the year.
Absolutely.
Discomfort. the
All right,
whole
let me-
town, the rest
That's
of
what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say.
Time out. We're saying the same thing 10 times. I think we've discussed it enough.
Let me just say one thing. The
Craig, you say one more thing.
3 lanes, if they want to go to 3 lanes, 1 lane this way, 1 lane that way, a turn lane in the middle, it gives you a 10-foot bike lane on each side of the street. 10-foot bike lane. What are people going to do with a 10-foot bike lane?
Ride 6
They're going to
across.
ride 4 across, and
That's one option.
that's what the 10-foot bike lane is going to give you, is like 4 people across.
Okay,
And that one body will be 20 next year.
all right. I want to end the discussion on this. I don't, nobody, I have a feeling. So let's see what she comes up with, what the green team comes up with. And we are going to take a vote on this next month. One other thing was, no, I sent everybody that booklet. There's no time to look at it. Please look at it over the next month. I went to them and said, I would like to work with you on trees and type of trees. Roger's been telling people don't put trees in the curb strip when there's wires overhead. There's something we've done for 30 years. And Mickey said, we've already done that. And we have trees that go under wires and we have trees that don't go under wires. And we can handle that. And we can have things that the electric company approves and everything else. I gave them the list of what we approved for landscaping and said, I don't know where this came from. Maybe Roger Rubin made it up. You take this and come up, and it doesn't have to all be stuff that's originated in Margate 1 billion years ago, but just look at this and you come up with what recommendations you have that the architects and builders can use. And especially, and what the arborist said was, everything he designs in this area, in this tree area, is designed for Margate, or designed for Ventnor, or designed for Ocean City, and he said they're all different. He would design something specifically for Margate with recommendations that we could have, that we what they want again, and personally I want it, but what they want is the street trees lining all the streets. And if the ones on the wire side are being pushed back, you lose that effect. And if there's trees that will work on that side, I would like to let them come up with those recommendations and work with them.
Chairman, may I speak?
Yes.
At 20 after 4 on Thursday, that arborist will be speaking to the commissioners.
He said it was we're on the record, never mind.
All right, good.
This, next Thursday?
Yes. The 6th, 4:20. somebody named Mickey.
Mickey, Mickey Reagan. Yeah.
Will be speaking if anyone's interested in listening.
Also, and this is just ideas, they said, which they should have done with this, they came up with that booklet. It's still a draft, it's a second draft, but they said if there's anything we object to, they want to know and they'll take it out. They don't want to come up with this problem of this gets approved and then we say we don't like it. So they're very willing to work on that. And I think it would be something that would be good for us to work with to help with the greening of the town. And there was one thing that actually had penalties that, being city property, if you did take a tree down, oh, no, I'm sorry, let me get to the main point. The giant trees that are coming down. A lot of towns, and Mike knows this from Pennsylvania, you have to have approval to take those trees down. Unless it's where the house is going to be and you have to take it down. If the tree's not in the way and the tree can be saved, you have to ask permission to take those trees down. And it's not what were they, elm trees or whatever that came down on that corner?
Well, one of them would have probably lasted another 60 years, but they said it was dead.
Whatever, there's things that we can do, and that.
I think that's a good idea.
What's that?
I think that's a good idea.
And then there was, if trees were removed, like if somebody puts in a 3-6-inch tree or whatever, depending on the size of that tree, and they're actually gonna do a tree inventory. There's actually fines if you remove a tree illegally and you have to replace the tree. So, again, that's not recommendations, that's discussion, but it's these types of things. A lot of street trees are just being removed. It's city property. They really don't have a right to remove the trees. They have to maintain them. But I think this is something we can work with the Green Team on. And everything that I wanted to discuss with them was already included in that booklet. I had no idea they were doing that, but they wanted to work with the planning board and they wanted our input and they wanted to have their input. So that's what that book was about. And a lot of it, you'll see, you can skim right through, but there's a lot of things in there with the objectives that see if you agree with them or disagree. And especially if you disagree, let me know, and if we can talk about it and take it out of there and be able to work with them.
Rich, that's at the demolition permit stage. Wouldn't it be for somebody to
Yes.
make sure trees aren't taken out when they tear a house down? At the building department?
Whatever, I don't know the procedure, but you would have to have approval to take the tree down.
I think one thing that would be important would just be to give everybody a heads up as far as builders and architects and demo guys, that, this is what we're doing,
Absolutely.
Because that doesn't happen all the time.
But that's what's common and that's what's in the book, and I thought it was a good thing. And as a green team, they were scattered. They want this, they want this. I said, you have to focus. This is something, the trees and landscaping is focus on that because we can work together on that. And they seem to get that message. We're not concerned about, not that we're not concerned, but we're not talking about climate change. We're not talking about sea level rise. Let's focus on the landscaping. Get what you want. We'll get a better looking city. You'll get a more environmentally friendly city. We both have different reasons, but the same objective satisfies our reasons and their reasons. And I thought it was a good meeting, and I think if they could keep focused and work with us in that area, I think it would be a good thing. Last thing was stacked cars are not allowed in Margate, another thing like the grass strip. Explain that you can't have more than one car in front of a driveway?
No, you can. You can.
Oh, I thought you couldn't.
I asked for an interpretation from RSIS. Originally, the way I interpreted it was a garage and one space in front of the garage counts as 2 spaces. Meaning that nothing more would count as additional space.
Is that what all this stuff was?
Yes.
So it's not a problem?
So I talked to RSIS directly, and they said it's up to the local governing authorities' interpretation.
Oh, so it's not, we're not doing anything illegal.
If we don't want free stack parking, we have to specify we don't want free stack parking.
But we haven't been doing anything wrong. It's not like the grass ordinance that we have to change the ordinance.
No, Rich, but it would solve a problem if we brought it up and the board had a consensus as to how many cars stacked deep can be counted towards bedroom coverage or And then Roger, I talked to you, you talked to me and Roger about maybe trying to get people to park underneath and provide the parking there and giving them some relief from a variance. You were saying something about, what, 9 foot?
Most towns allow 9 foot above top of curb or existing grade to measure your first floor from, so you provide the parking underneath the house, so you don't need a garage, you don't need a shed, you don't need a driveway. It's easier to get your landscape coverage requirements, so you can have a nice patio without a variance.
Which would take care of a lot of sins, and it would only be applicable if we decided that to someone who's willing to elevate their house and put the parking underneath one. And if you don't want too much height, then I had the thought of, instead of having all the houses with a 5 and 12, maybe give a 4 and 12 or 3 and 12 automatic variance or 1 foot freeboard or something, so they don't have to come into us to get that parking underneath. And it alleviates the street, alleviates the landscaping, the drainage, the storage, the garages. I mean, it would solve a lot of problems.
We're doing it on the raised now anyhow, but I don't like the three pitch roofs, and I'll vote against that as long as
But it doesn't matter what variation, Roger just said do 9 automatic, which is fine. But we really need to make a decision because, like I said, they're coming in and saying, well, we're not going to do 4. They're using it as an argument to get a variance, and the other guys are using it as an argument, oh, we got to get the 4 spaces in because, you know, we don't have any definition. And the standard is 1 and 1 or 2. But it's only enforceable if we make it a recommendation and change the ordinance.
Was somebody want to explain to me how we go with 3.5 car spaces?
What are you talking about?
In the ordinance, we get 3.5 car spaces.
Right, but that's
No,
meant
no,
for like,
but then you round down. You have to round
you
down.
round down, or if you're doing a 10-unit subdivision.
I know why it's done, but I just,
Right, well, get your hacksaw and you cut it.
don't say that.
All right.
Which
that-
after you cut.
Yeah.
That was everything I had. Does anybody else have anything?
What are we doing? Stack it,
No, I was concerned that it was illegal or it was against an ordinance. It's not. So, I mean, that's something that we can, the subcommittee can
Yeah, I
talk
think,
about or whatever.
I think Tom has a good point. I think moving forward, we should, not tonight, but, you know, we should start thinking about that. But you're obviously gonna have to, in my mind, and maybe Roger, I mean, we're gonna have to allow more height, right? You gotta
You have to
allow
provide an
more height.
alternative. The alternative is a higher building, the cars underneath.
Yeah. And like you said, you know.
We used to have we didn't want garage doors facing the street or, you know, right up front. But Sandy changed everything. I mean,
Right.
this is what we have to have now.
Well, nowadays, they're tucked in behind the decks. You don't really see
Yeah,
that much.
it's a different world out there.
It's definitely a different world, because when you take, time will back up for this, with the original, split levels for the garage underneath, you had 7'6" ceilings on top. Now they want 9 and 10 feet, so I think we ought to, if you want that extra height, you guys understand, you don't need 10-foot ceiling. You know?
I don't see too many.
Where? In the garage or in
No,
the first floor?
We're gonna raise the height of the houses with the parking underneath. Don't give them the 10-foot ceilings anymore.
We haven't been given 10-foot ceilings. You mean 9-foot ceilings?
Yeah.
Are you objecting to 9
You know-
or just 10s?
No, well.
9 seems to be standard
You need
anymore.
to look at each one.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean.
aren't we then over-regulating? And if a guy wants to come in here and says, I want 10-foot ceilings, I want to build a $20 million house on the beach, and I'm going to pay you a lot of money in taxes, we don't like your 10-foot ceiling, so we don't want your money.
Well, that's what we do all the time, Tom.
Who cares?
We turn it down all the time. We're not about money.
As long as they meet
We're
the
not
building
there to
height
make money.
requirements, depending where they measure it from, that should be enough.
I hear a motion to adjourn. Did you turn this off?
It's still on.
All in favor, aye. It's off?
Who's second? Remy?
Remy seconded, and he seconded, and everybody voted yes. Is it off?
Yes.